I kid you not, I beat a top tier bounty hunter with a pocket knife.
No way.
Yes way. Then I pulled out this long epic looking black blade and cut the man through his chest.
Is there a reason the blade was black?
Now that I think about it, that's a good question. I'm not too... Oh, sir, that's exactly what you're supposed to be explaining in today's video. Oh, it is? Right, of course.
Weren't you about to say you weren't sure?
Me? Not sure? You're hearing things. Sit back and watch as I explain the secret behind black blades.
If you say so.
Doc, start recording. We've already been recording, sir. Then pass me the script. Right, sir. Black Blades, one of the greatest mysteries in the One Piece story. There have been several different theories, speculations, and discussions on how to obtain one. The common consensus amongst the community seems to be that it heavily relies upon your level of armament haki, and that when enough experience is gained, the blade will turn black. There are only two characters we know of who are able to turn their blades permanently black, those characters being Ryuma and Mihawk and Shimotsuki Ryuma, who is currently deceased. Both wielders have accomplished great things, Mihawk being world-renowned as the strongest swordsman alive, and Ryuma dubbed the sword god who slayed a dragon and stroked everlasting fear in the navy. So how is it that characters such as the Pirate King, Goldie Roger, or the strongest man alive, Whitebeard, or even the Dark King Rayleigh were not wielders of black blades? These three have accomplished things arguably greater than that which Ryuma and Mihawk had, and yet they still haven't forged their black blades. So how would one go about doing so? I believe the secret lies somewhere within the will of the blade. In chapter 937, Yukimaru explains the legend of Ryuma and says Ryuma had forged Shisui into a black blade through countless battles. He then proceeded to ask Zoro if he was nothing more than a greedy boy with only thoughts of his own selfish desires. It seemed as though Yukimaru was comparing Zoro to Ryuma in this instance. Is this Yukimaru telling us that Ryuma was not only following his own desires, but that of the blades as well? There are several instances in the story where blades are described to have a will of their own. All the way back in Log Town, when Zoro had grabbed the Kitetsu blade from the sword shop, the shop owner had told him that the blade was cursed and had a will of its own. And now, in recent chapters, we learn that blades have never been cursed, but rather have always had personalities of their own, and were named cursed blades because of the weak swordsmen who were afraid of them. In chapter 1033, there's a panel showing Enma releasing some kind of energy even when Zoro is no longer holding it. It seemed as though the haki Enma took from Zoro was still residing within the blade. Then, on the next page, we see the same thing, but this time, Enma is black. Despite Zoro having not picked up the blade, it seemed as though Enma may have still been taking haki from it, eventually turning black. So after some thinking, Zoro finally decided that he would stop trying to selfishly reserve haki, but instead succumb to the will of the blade and let Enma suck out as much haki as it wants. By doing so, all of Zoro's haki was able to be released, causing all three of his blades to turn black and coat themselves in Zoro's conqueror's haki in the process. These recent events have caused me to make a few connections. By ignoring what the blade wanted, Zoro was not only limiting the sword's potential but his own. He had been so focused on preserving haki that he unknowingly limited his own abilities, because haki only blooms when near death. Greater strength can only be gained in front of death's door, or in Zoro's case, in front of Enma, the king of the underworld. Zoro had to offer himself up to the blade, and in return, the blade offers its power back to Zoro. Through the constant exchange of haki between the wielder and the blade, they get closer and closer to becoming one, and eventually leads to the blade becoming permanently black. At least that's what I believe. This would explain why black blades stay black even when the wielder is not with them. This was teased when we saw Enma glowing even when Zoro was not holding it. It consumes it and makes it a part of itself. Zoro's haki resides in the blade's soul, and in return, the blade gets closer and closer to reaching its max potential, where it will eventually become black. How can one expect to gain something without giving something in return? Such a simple concept, yet it's so easy to ignore, which would explain why Goldie Roger, Whitebeard, and even Silver's Rayleigh may have not had black blades. It's possible that they used their blades quite well and were definitely very efficient with it, but they never took the time to hear the blade's voice, to hear what the blade wanted, to truly become one with the blade's soul itself. On the other hand, Mihawk, the world's strongest swordsman, seems to almost be the complete opposite. He doesn't ignore his blade. If we take a look at Marineford, a lot of his actions are a little more clear now that we have this context. When he was chasing Luffy, he said something on the lines of, "How will fate deal with this boy?" almost implying that anything he did to Luffy was not in his own control, or rather, not something he could stop. He then continues with, will his life end here, or will he escape this black blade? Almost implying that the will to fight Luffy was not his own, but rather his blade's. I believe this was Mihawk simply succumbing to the blade's will, which at that moment was to hunt Luffy. Going off a little bit on a side note, Yoru seems to be a blade that seeks nothing but carnage and destruction, which is why Mihawk went around killing pirates across the Grand Line. He claimed it was out of boredom, which was most likely true, but not only was Mihawk bored, so was Yoru. What Yoru desires is what Mihawk desires. What Mihawk desires is what Yoru desires. This type of bond between swordsman and blade is something I believe is truly the key to having a black blade. And this bond doesn't come to an end after the blade is black. It's a never-ending cycle till the swordsman passes away. Yoru and Mihawk are constantly looking out to test their power, test this devastating power they have in their hands, this power of destruction. Constantly sailing, hoping for a worthy adversary to test out this blade's power. And there you have it. That's my speculation on how to forge a black blade. As most people have thought, it is heavily haki based, at least that's what I think, but it also is about the will of the blade itself. If you enjoyed this video, drop a like, comment and subscribe for more One Piece theories, and as always people, have an awesome day. Just the hero. Out. So, what did you think? Oh sir, she left a little while ago. What? Wasn't she the one who asked for the explanation? No sir, that video was scheduled beforehand. And you demanded that she sat back, but she started getting bored and dipped. Cut the recording.